Iraq was a problem that had to be dealt with.
Weapons of mass destruction.
We thought he had weapons of mass destruction.
When I was in your position, I was suggesting we bomb Belgrade. I was suggesting that we send American pilots in and blow up all the bridges on the Drina.
Should Putin be tried for war crimes? Should Putin be tried for war crimes in Ukraine?
This is my first video update from Athens, Greece on this Saturday midday. Let's talk about some news, and we have the big story that we have to talk about, which is that the International Criminal Court in The Hague, they have issued arrest warrants for Russian President Vladimir Putin, as well as Russia's Children's Rights Commissioner Maria Lvova-Belova. And so the ICC, the European Union, they really screwed up big time on this one. I mean, they really screwed up with this panic move, because that's what this is. This is a panic media optics move. And the ICC is finished. Another EU institution, another collective West institution bites the dust. Another one bites the dust, as Freddie Mercury sang. Who in their right mind is going to take this ICC warrant seriously? Not even Joe Biden. Not even demented Joe Bidenopoulos, Chris's favorite son, is really taking this seriously. You listen to his comments in the opening segment of this video. It may have been a little difficult to hear what Biden said, but this is what he said to reporters. Well, I think it's justified, but the question is, it's not recognized internationally by us either. But I think it makes a very strong point. And then Biden said, Putin clearly committed war crimes. He's been saying that for God knows how long. He's been saying that even before the SMO. And then Biden said to reporters that the accusations of Chinese payments to members of his family were not true, and that the banking crisis in the U.S. has calmed down. And then Biden walked off. That was the exchange that Biden had with reporters. Even Biden doesn't really take this seriously, and even his statement is hinting at this as being some kind of PR media stunt. Even Joe Bidenopoulos understands that this is a farce. This is ridiculous. You have 123 or 124 countries that are signed up to the ICC, to the Rome Statute, and you have something like 47 countries that are not signed up. That includes the United States, and includes Russia. So for Russia, this is bogus. They're like, we don't recognize this anyway. Maria Zakharova said Russia is not a party to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court and does not bear any obligations under it. Russia does not cooperate with this body, and possible recipes for arrest coming from the International Court will be legally null and void for us. That is what Maria Zakharova said. Dmitry Medvedev, well, he just called the warrant toilet paper, pretty much. He said the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin. No need to explain where the paper should be used. That is what Dmitry Medvedev said. So, say Putin travels to a country that is signed up to the Rome Statute. Say he travels to Brazil or to South Africa. I think Brazil and South Africa are signed up to the ICC. What are the South African authorities going to do? Are they going to arrest Putin? Really? I'd like to see that happen. Of course not. Of course that's not going to happen. Who's going to exercise this warrant? Who in their right mind is going to arrest the Russian president? Nobody. Only if Putin travels to the United States, to Germany, or to the Netherlands or wherever. If he travels there, then fine, they'll arrest him. And even then, I bet you the countries in Europe, if they were to arrest Putin, they would think 2 or 3 times before they actually put the handcuffs on Putin, because it would be an act of war. It would lead to World War III. Arrest Putin, say hello to Mr. Iskander. That would pretty much be how it would go down. And that's what Russia should do. What Russia should do is exactly what the U.S. did with the ICC. In 2002, when a real war criminal, George W. Bush, was engaged in Iraq WMDs and all of that nonsense, the U.S. passed a law, and what was the name of that law? The 2002 American Service Members Act, something like that. They passed a law and they basically said that if The Hague dares to take any American citizen custody, we're going to bomb the crap out of The Hague. That's pretty much what the U.S. said. They said they'll use military force. They reserve the rights to protect American citizens, and that includes military force. Basically, it's saying if you touch any American and bring them to The Hague, which we don't recognize as the United States of America, we're going to bomb you guys. And that all went down during Iraq WMDs, which highlights the hypocrisy of this ICC warrant. Was there ever a warrant issued for Bush, Clinton, Obama, Biden? Nope, never. I mean, the collective West, I understand that they want to score a media PR win, and that's what they're aiming for with this warrant. The EU, under the orders of the neocons, Nuland rang up Ursula and told Ursula, let's get this warrant out there. Let's issue this warrant, and let's make it against children. That's what they thought up, because people that are watching, I don't know, say CNN or MSNBC or reading the New York Times, what's the narrative that they're going to get? Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russia's Maria Lvova-Belova, the Commissioner for Children's Rights, they have an arrest warrant issued by The Hague, by the international. It's the International Criminal Court. They've issued an arrest warrant because Russia was deporting and transferring children from Ukraine to Moscow. That evil Putin was actually taking children and transferring them to Russia. That's the narrative they're going to get, and it just enforces the whole evil Russia, evil Putin. We've seen this narrative before. I mean, we've seen it a dozen times with animals. Remember all the stories about the zoos and how the Russians would go to the zoos and they would do terrible things to the animals. It's the same narrative, you know, just to paint Putin and Russians, because if you paint Putin this way, then you paint all Russians this way as an evil society that hates puppy dogs and ice cream, and now they hate children as well. Look at what they're doing to children. This is projection, by the way. This is pure projection, because the very people that are issuing this warrant, I am positive that they're projecting their thoughts, their feelings. I'll stop there. I'll stop there, else I'm going to get in trouble. But Nuland, she called Ursula, and they came up with this warrant, right? Because they thought they're going to score a PR media win, and for a certain percentage of the population, that's exactly what they're going to do. There's going to be a large part of the collectivist population that's going to read this, and they're going to once again say how evil Putin and Russia is, right? But the rest of the world is going to look at this and they're going to say, what a freaking joke. What a hypocrisy. That's what the rest of the world's going to say. They're going to say, what a hypocrisy. Here's a quote from Kim.com. This is what Kim.com said. The International Criminal Court that we don't recognize has issued an arrest warrant against Putin for evacuating children from a war zone that is getting shelled with our weapons. And we are the ones who killed over 20 million people in 37 victim nations since World War II. I could not have said it better myself. This is what Eva Morales said. He said the International Criminal Court issues a void arrest warrant against the brother. He called Putin a brother, his hermano, that's what he called Putin, against the brother president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, days before his meeting with his counterpart of China, Xi Jinping, that seeks to create the conditions for a process of pacification of the conflict with Ukraine. We express all our solidarity with brother Putin. Interesting timing for this warrant, isn't it? Just a couple of days before the big meeting between Xi Jinping and the Russian president. And of course, they're going to talk about China's peace plan for Ukraine. And the Wall Street Journal has already said that the White House does not want Russia talking about this peace plan. They said that any peace plan coming out of China should be ignored. That's what the Wall Street Journal reported. So they don't want any type of China peace plan. But the real reason that Xi Jinping is going to be meeting with Putin is because Russia and China, they're preparing for more escalation from the collective West. China understands that the collective West, the United States, is pivoting towards China. They're going to sit down and they're going to coordinate and strategize together and see what they need to do in order to deal with the collective West escalation against Russia. Yes, but the fact that they're starting to focus on China, and China wants to sit with Russia and figure things out. That's the real reason that Xi Jinping is going to be meeting with Putin. They understand what's going on. Xi Jinping understands what's going on. Putin understands what's going on. The whole world, the whole rest of the world that doesn't read the New York Times or CNN, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, what a hypocrisy. What a freaking hypocrisy this is. What a joke, an arrest warrant against Putin. It's a joke. Because Russia, the narrative is that Russia wanted to evacuate children and families away from conflict zones to protect their lives. Madeleine Albright, she brags about killing 500,000 Iraqis. That's good. No problem there. 500,000 Iraqi children. What did Albright say? I think it's worth it. Remember that 60 Minutes interview? I think it's worth it. But when Russia wants to protect the lives of children and of families and evacuate them from areas that are being shelled by the Zelensky regime, well, we got to issue an arrest warrant there. Joseph Borrell, he tweeted, the decision of the International Criminal Court to issue an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin for the war crime of unlawful deportation and transfer of children from Ukraine to Russia is the start of the process of accountability. We appreciate and support the ICC's work. The ICC is finished. And then Borrell said, there can be no hashtag no impunity. There can be hashtag no impunity. That was Jungle Joseph's tweet. Here's a tweet. Countries invaded 9, civilians killed 11 million, ICC charges 0. And there you can see a picture of Obama, Bush, and Clinton. So what does this do? This warrant. It diminishes the ICC. It diminishes the ICC. It highlights the hypocrisy of the collective West. The collective West thinks it scores a PR and media win. They've been talking about a tribunal now for a whole year, and so this is like them saying, you see, we're getting the tribunal started. We've taken the first step with this ICC warrant. They issue this warrant at a time when Xi Jinping is going to be meeting with Putin. So they try to tarnish that meeting. It's not going to work. You know what else it does? It guarantees that there's going to be no peace, because how can you negotiate if you're the collective West, if you're the EU? How can you negotiate now with Putin, now that he has an arrest warrant? How can you have any rapprochement with Russia ever again now that you've issued this arrest warrant? And from what I understand, revoking the arrest warrant is, I guess you could revoke it if you need to, but once you issue a warrant, from what I understand, it's very difficult to withdraw it. So how do you negotiate a peace now? Ukraine's fate is sealed. It's sealed. That's what they've done. Because you can't negotiate now with a war criminal, can you? How can Olaf Scholz sit at the same table with Putin now? You can't. It seals the fate of this war. It seals the fate of Ukraine. It's going to harden Russia's position. And yeah, this was just a terrible, terrible move, and it diminishes the standing of the ICC. The other thing that Russia should do, and from what I understand they are doing it, is they've opened up an investigation. The Russian authorities are opening up an investigation against the judges that approved this warrant. I wouldn't want to be one of those judges in The Hague, that's for sure. So I mentioned what Biden said in his statement to reporters, where he said, where he pretty much said, this decision from the ICC, not even the U.S. recognizes the ICC, so, so what? Even Biden understood that. But Biden said that the payments, this story about Chinese payments to his family, is not true. It is true. I mean, we followed the money. The money's going into your family's account, Biden. I mean, what's not true about that anyway? Don't look at the money entering my family's account. Just ignore that, right? But he also said that the banking crisis in the U.S. has calmed down. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal, they ran an article saying that close to 200 banks in the U.S. are at risk of bankruptcy. Close to 200 banks. That's what the Wall Street Journal reported. It's almost as if the business elite, because the Wall Street Journal is the publication of the business elite, of the business oligarchy. It's almost as if they want a bank run. They want people to panic and to go pull their money out of these small to medium-sized regional banks. That's why the Wall Street Journal runs an article like this. But wouldn't it be interesting if the coming banking collapse, if you're to believe the Wall Street Journal article and everything that seems to be engineered towards some sort of collapse, wouldn't it be interesting if this collapse is timed with the collapse of Zelensky? Wouldn't that be interesting? How about that for a distraction? Project Ukraine implodes, the whole thing goes to where, and no one in the U.S. even recognizes what happened in Ukraine. No one even cares because everyone is so preoccupied with 200 banks collapsing. Wouldn't that be interesting if all of this is timed just right so that when Ukraine collapses, no one even notices it in the collective West? Because you're losing your money. Banks are collapsing. What do I care about Ukraine? No one's going to even report it. Just a thought. I would not be surprised if that's what happens. It is a perfect distraction. A perfect distraction, if you ask me. So that's the ICC. Honestly, I wouldn't. My opinion on this is that it makes Europe look bad. It makes The Hague look bad. The ICC is over. It's done with. Stick a fork in it. It's cooked. No one's going to take it seriously anymore. No one would dare arrest Putin. That would lead to World War III. But what it does do, the negative thing that it does do, if you want peace in Ukraine, if you're a neocon, for them this is great. Once again, Europe did their bidding, but if you want peace in Ukraine, well, then this moves us much further away from peace, because there can't be a negotiation with the war criminal Putin. And they think it scores a PR win, but it doesn't. This actually makes the collective West look hysterical and panicked. Would a side that is winning do this? If they're winning, do they need to do these stunts? No, of course not. Because they're not winning. They're losing, and they're losing really, really bad. And we may be seeing one more indictment, by the way, before I talk about the situation in Ukraine. We may be seeing another very, very high-profile indictment that would just tear the U.S. apart, and that is the possible indictment of Trump. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies are reportedly discussing security preparations in the event former President Donald Trump is indicted on felony falsification charges sometimes in the coming days, according to multiple media outlets citing anonymous officials. So this has to do with the Stormy Daniels payoff incident, which went via the sleazy attorney Michael Cohen. And this is all being done by the New York courts. But the main point here is that an indictment of Trump and an arrest of Trump is not going to end well. It is not going to end well at all, and it's going to tear the U.S. apart, because Trump has a massive base of support, and everyone's going to see this for what it is. They're going to see this as once again going after Trump and trying to take him out of the running for 2024. And they're right. And they're absolutely right. And of course, it's a distraction away from all of the troubles of Joe Biden. Arresting Trump would be a distraction from the awful, terrible Biden presidency. They're afraid of Trump. They're afraid of Trump winning in 2024. And they don't like it when Trump talks about taking out the neocons, which is what he's talking about. Trump is talking about settling the conflict in Ukraine, and he's talking about taking out the globalists and the neocons. This is what Trump said the other day. He said, these globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas while keeping us distracted from the havoc they're creating right here at home. These forces are doing more damage to America than Russia and China could ever have dreamed. So when Trump says stuff like this, what do the neocons and the globalists do? They say, we got to arrest this guy. We got to shut this guy up. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Now, this could be just media hype, because we've heard this in the past, that they're going to arrest Trump. How many times have we heard this? And nothing's ever come of it. But let's see. They're saying next week, this may go down. I give it 50-50. A lot of media outlets are talking about this. This could just be a bluff. This could be media spin. Or maybe they actually do decide to go after Trump. That would just be... I don't even know what that would do to the U.S. It would tear the U.S. apart. Something like that. That's what I think. Maybe even lead to protests in the streets. I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, let's now talk about what is happening in Ukraine, because the side that is winning, if the collective West side was winning, they would never resort to these types of ICC stunts. And the side that is really winning, well, which is the Russians, they're just going about their business. But what happened early this morning, late yesterday evening, early this morning, while the ICC was talking about arrest warrants for the evil Vladimir Putin, the Russian military, they were sending drones into Ukraine. And of course, Ukrainian math, Zelensky math. They say that they shot down all of those drones. I've read reports actually where they say they shot down 100% of the drones. I've read reports where they say they shot down 11 of 16 over Dnipropetrovsk. Anyway, never trust Ukraine military math. The results of these drone strikes were devastating, absolutely devastating. They were targeting Lvov and Kiev and just all over Ukraine, and especially Dnipropetrovsk. And from what I understand, these drone strikes were targeting fuel and lubricant warehouses, which were being used by the armed forces, which were being accumulated by the Ukrainian armed forces in order to prepare for their big spring offensive. That's what the Russian military was targeting. Now the situation in Bakhmut is very, very bad for Ukraine. The situation now in Avdiivka is moving towards some sort of an encirclement, some sort of cauldron as well. And Avdiivka is the area, the very fortified town, a town of about 20,000. That's very close to Donetsk city, and it's from Avdiivka that a lot of the missile strikes were being launched to hit Donetsk city. It looks like Avdiivka is about to be surrounded as well. But Zelensky and Commander Sirsky, they continue to send forces to the Bakhmut area in preparation for this Bakhmut breakthrough, to break through this cauldron and this encirclement. And according to reports from Sirsky, this Ukraine breakthrough is most likely going to take place this Wednesday or Thursday. And there are videos, hard to confirm if these videos are legit, but there are videos showing a lot of Ukrainian military resources, I guess, moving in that direction. Once again, it's hard to say if these videos are legit, but according to the Ukraine military, this Wednesday or Thursday is going to be the day when they break through, when they try to break through Bakhmut. But the situation in Bakhmut and Avdiivka is very, very bad for the Ukraine military. You have Politico running an article yesterday saying that Zelensky, his commitment to Bakhmut is losing so many Ukrainian soldiers that it jeopardizes the big spring offensive, which is slated for May. They've given a date, May. That's what Politico said the other day. And then you have the New York Times saying that Zelensky's commitment to Bakhmut and his use of so much ammunition and weapons and artillery is jeopardizing the spring offensive. So Politico is saying that Bakhmut is losing Ukrainian soldiers, and the New York Times is saying that Bakhmut is losing Ukraine ammo, and this is going to lead to a possible debacle come the May offensive, which NATO and the collective West, on the one hand, is pushing Ukraine towards doing, but on the other hand, the collective West is telling Zelensky that you can't do a spring counteroffensive if you continue to double and triple down in Bakhmut. So you know what the collective West is kind of doing? They're kind of hedging their bets. That's what I think they're doing via Politico and the New York Times, because what Politico and the New York Times, when they cite these U.S. officials who are telling Zelensky, look, don't double and triple down in Bakhmut because you risk the spring counteroffensive, and we're warning you that the situation in Bakhmut is going to put the counteroffensive in jeopardy. What they're doing is they're hedging their bets, because we all know that Zelensky, if he needs to use the bathroom, he has to get the permission of the State Department, of Nuland and Blinken and Biden and Sullivan. So the United States, the Biden White House, is absolutely in private. They're absolutely telling Zelensky, You're gonna have a counteroffensive in May, and you're gonna hold on to Bakhmut, and you're going to buy time in Bakhmut or whatever they're thinking of there. There's no doubt that they're telling Zelensky and Syrskyi to remain committed to Bakhmut, but to also launch a spring counteroffensive. But publicly, this is what they're telling Zelensky privately. Publicly, they're on record. They're getting anonymous sources to go to Politico and the New York Times and to tell Politico and the New York Times, well, we're actually telling Zelensky we want a spring counteroffensive, but because he's committed so much to Bakhmut, spring counteroffensive may not happen, or may be this big debacle. But we're warning him. So they're kind of they're hedging their bets. They understand that things are not going to work out for Zelensky. They understand it, and they're using the New York Times and Politico to provide them cover, because when things don't turn out well come the spring offensive and the Zelensky regime collapses, they can say, well, we warned Zelensky. We warned him. We told him, you're overcommitted in Bakhmut, but, what can we do? Meanwhile, the banks are collapsing and no one is even noticing Project Ukraine falling apart. That's what could happen in the spring. That's what could happen come spring, summertime. We'll see. We will see. Either way, we have Slovakia sending MiGs, something like 12 MiGs to Ukraine. We have Poland sending something like 4 or 5 MiGs. From what I understand, these are really old planes that they're kind of dusting off and taking them out of the warehouse, and they're handing them over to Ukraine because, as we've said in many videos, both on the Duran and on this channel, the plan is not to send F-16s. The plan is to send MiGs. That was the plan. That is the plan. We see Poland doing it. We see Slovakia doing it. But Slovakia actually wants $900 million now in compensation. You see how this works? Slovakia is saying, you know what? We're handing Ukraine 12 MiGs, but we want to get paid from the EU. Maybe it's going to come from the EU's their peace fund that they put together, which is really their war fund, but they call it their peace fund. Maybe that's where the 900 million is going to go to Slovakia. And I'm sure that Ursula and Borrell and all these guys are going to get their cut if they do decide to give Slovakia 900 million. I wouldn't be surprised if Poland also says, hey, we've sent 4 MiGs to Ukraine. Can we get, a couple $100 million as well in compensation? That's what's happening. It's always about money. Always about money. Poland is also, there are reports that Poland is moving HIMARS, or wants to move HIMARS, to its borders with Kaliningrad as well. That's an interesting development. HIMARS are not defensive weapons, so what Poland is up to, who knows? But as things collapse in Ukraine, maybe the neocons actually get Poland to do something very stupid. Maybe towards Kaliningrad, maybe towards the west of Ukraine, who knows? Maybe the neocons convince Moldova or Georgia to do something stupid as Project Ukraine collapses. We'll see. It's very interesting that Poland is moving their HIMARS into this position. And as all of this is happening, all of this craziness and madness is happening, we have huge protests in France. Huge protests in France. The French are very pissed off at the pension reform that Macron railroaded through, ignoring the parliament, and they're very upset. They were burning effigies of Macron in the streets yesterday evening, and they were chanting stuff like, we beheaded Louis XVI and we can do it again with Macron. That is what the crowd was chanting. Basically, they're saying that they can delete Macron, if you know what I mean. The Zelensky curse coming to Macron. Is that what we're about to see? So we did a video on the Duran, me and Alexander, and maybe, just maybe, Macron is hoping that he can leave office. We did a video 3 weeks ago, me and Alexander, and we noted that there were rumors that Macron wants out. He doesn't want to be president anymore of France, and he would prefer to get some sort of cushy position at some sort of EU international globalist institution. Maybe they can put him as head of the International Criminal Court, or who knows. But he wants to get some sort of position at the World Bank or the WHO or the UN or something like that, NATO. And these were rumors that were going around 2-3 weeks ago, and we mentioned this on a video we did on the Duran, me and Alexander, like 2-3 weeks ago. We mentioned it kind of in passing. But me and Alexander did another video, which will be going up on the Duran this weekend. And we both came to the conclusion that Macron just may be using this pension reform to find a way out of being president for France, because Macron really doesn't care about the French people. You can tell he doesn't really want to be president of France anymore, because he doesn't have absolute power. Ever since he kind of lost his power in parliament, Macron is like, I don't want to deal with democracy and legislation and stuff like that. Now that I don't have absolute power, I'm not so interested in being the French president. So maybe he's engineering all of this. Maybe he's doing this. Maybe he knows he's engineering this. Maybe he's subconsciously engineering this. Who knows? But maybe he's, doing this whole pension reform thing so that he could come to the French people and say, I can't govern. I can't govern like this anymore. I just can't do this. So it's time for me to move on. Maybe, just maybe. It's a long shot, but possibly that's Macron's angle. He's looking for that big position in some sort of globalist institution. After all, for someone like Macron, a globalist like Macron, that's where the real power is at. The real power for him is not in France anymore. He doesn't have complete control of France. The real power for Macron is getting a seat at the head offices of the European Union or at the UN or something like that. That's where the real globalist power is, at the WEF. Anyway, let's do a clown world and we'll wrap this video up. We had a lot of news to cover today. But the clown world is courtesy of Tucker Carlson tonight and a little segment that they had. I will play the segment. Tucker wasn't hosting the show. It was Will Kane that was hosting in place of Tucker. But they ran a segment in the beginning of the show, which I just found hilarious. I mean, I found it absolutely hilarious. And it was St. Patrick's Day yesterday. So a late happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. But they noted how Joe Biden, he used the occasion of St. Patrick's Day to talk up his diverse upbringing, right? Joe Biden likes to talk about how he had a very diverse upbringing in education, and when he was a senator in Delaware, he had a whole bunch of diverse groups that supported him, and he always likes to talk that up. And that's what the segment on Fox News highlights. And it talks about how Joe Biden was supported by when he was young, he was supported by the Irish community, right? The Irish American community. They absolutely loved Joe Biden. And so did the Polish community in the U.S. They absolutely supported and loved Joe Biden. And then Joe Biden talks about how the Jewish community absolutely supported him. And Joe Biden went to, I think he said he went to like a Jewish school, or he went to synagogue. And then he went to, and then he talks about how the black church supported Biden, and he talks about how he was raised in the black church. And then he gets to the Greeks. To the Greeks. He also talks about the Puerto Rican community. The Puerto Rican community supported Biden. And then he gets to the Greeks. And that was my favorite part of this Fox News segment. And that's why I'm going to play the video. I'm going to sign out. Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son. I think the Tucker Carlson show watches my videos. I doubt it. I doubt it. But wouldn't that be something? Anyway, Joe Bidenopoulos, he's loved by all the communities. He could go by many names, Joe Bidenopoulos, right? Joe Biden could go by many names, many diverse names, many last names of many nations. But I use Joe Bidenopoulos because he's Greece's favorite son. And here's the video from Tucker Carlson, theduran.locals.com. Go to the Duran shop. I've got my Slovakia Duran sweatshirt in honor of Slovakia sending their 12 MiGs to Ukraine. And hopefully the Slovakian political elites will get a big fat compensation of $900 million from the European Union. Anyway, we are also on Rumble, BitChute, ODYSEE, and Telegram. Take care.
The facts of Joe Biden's biography are getting harder and harder to pin down. You see, it's not just the Puerto Ricans who are being airbrushed away. What about all the Poles? I mean, the Greeks, who played key roles in Joe Biden's upbringing. See, when it's not St. Patrick's Day, Joe Biden talks about them a lot.
You know, I grew up in a heavily Irish Catholic community in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and a heavily Italian Polish community in Claremont, Delaware.
I also want to acknowledge someone else who means a great deal to our family. Rabbi Michael Beals of the Congregation Beth Shalom in Wilmington, Delaware. That's where I received my education. I probably went to shul more than many of you did. You all think I'm kidding.
We have a very, in relative terms, large Puerto Rican population in Delaware. I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home.
I got my education for real in the black church. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact.
I'm an honorary Greek, not only today, but every day.